media here. Lonely man. Do we know, as the previous media rep from the Temple City Star, has he moved?
Yes.
He moved today.
I understand. Today?
He's gone. Yeah.
That will be a loss because he filled a very valuable role in reporting council proceedings. Anyway, welcome, council. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we'll have Councillor Kronen give us our invocation.
Sure. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before thee this time as Councillor, Mayor and Councillor, and pray that we might be able to make wise decisions and have a spirit of discernment to be able to understand the issues and to make correct choices. We pray, Father, for this community and that we love, and pray for its members, that we might look after their welfare and looking after the funds that are allocated to this town for so many services. May we be wise stewards. And this we pray humbly in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Councillor. I have two items, isn't it, Marian? Two items. Number one is there is a delegation, and we'd like to welcome Corporal Brown to our council, and you can proceed to the podium if you want. I've got one more under 9C. It's a report regarding a prior agenda item regarding a tax sale, and that's, and just real quick we'll discuss that because there will be no tax sale, but anyway, that's the gist of that. So again, welcome Corporal Brown. And
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Oh, thank you. Move, Councillor Dahl moves we adopt the agenda with the additions. All in favor? Thank you. Corporal Brown, welcome. And as we visited briefly before the meeting, he is not up to full staff. One or two have been seconded to High River, understandably. Anyway, welcome, and we have the report here. I think you've all got it. Just flip it over and the data is on the back.
Thank you, Your Worship and Councillors, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to present our first quarterly statistics report. Normally you guys have already taken the time to review it. Nothing outstanding there, but I have a few things I want to bring to Council on regards to where we're going as a detachment, especially in the summer months coming up. Some issues that we had in regards to criminal code issues from last summer are the same as this year, specifically graffiti. We're on target in regards to trying to eliminate but reducing the graffiti that's been popping up quite a bit last year. But this in early spring of this year, due to foot patrols and being out of the vehicle, a number of young people caught in the act. As a result of judicial proceedings are ongoing with that, as well as damage to property. So that is an area that we are still focusing on, although as I was walking home last night I saw some more graffiti over by Western Tire stores. I've got the right store.
Kirk's?
The Source store.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the
Napa.
Napa?
Not Napa, across the street. But on the side of the, but anyways, I
Pro
noticed
shop.
some, yeah, pro shop. I noticed some fresh stuff there, just, you know, just when I thought we were got it, there's always somebody that takes somebody's spot. But nevertheless, that's one issue that the members are mindful of, and we're trying to do our best to catch the youth that are responsible and make an impression and make immediate releases on that so that the public know that we're on target. One other thing is I want to mention is about the McKeans. Hannah McKean and Andy McKean has received a transfer notice. Their house is up for sale and they're subject to be transferred. We are a deficit already by 2 members. Having a member up in High River does put a bit of strain on our resources, but nevertheless, we're doing okay and we're getting there. So that's the issues I want to bring forward. No word on replacement for our detachment commander, for the sergeant. I'm still in the acting position for an indefinite period of time. I suspected the inspector who was on holidays and has been on holidays is back on July the 17th, so I would suspect somewhere after July the 17th we probably get some kind of announcement as to who is coming. All he would say is that, Charles, the dynamics of the RCMP has changed, but he wouldn't elaborate on what that meant. I can only suspect. I do want to say this in regards to the Cardston's liaison officer. Horton and myself are making a concerted effort to cooperate, to work together, have him with me, with members, expose him to the members more often so that they know that who he actually is and what he can do for us. And Horton has increased his input in regards to calling us and nipping things in the bud before they become a problem. So I just wanted to put those 2 bits in for Horton. Horton, as well as Lloyd Stewart, sees me usually weekly, just to give them an understanding what's on our table, so they can be mindful of that as well in their own minds as to what's out there. Foot patrols is something that I'm big on, and we do our best to be there downtown to discourage anything that misbehavior, because that's one of our APPs is behavioral problem. So we try to show as much as we can through foot patrols as well as just general foot patrols. I really enjoy foot patrols. Heritage Day Parade, Your Worship, a little bit of a problem for me on that part. It's unfortunate my daughter has a surgery scheduled on August the 8th, and I'll be away from August the 7th to the 17th inclusive in Nova Scotia, assisting my daughter with that surgery and her recovery. Now, we still have in play acting detached commander at the time would be Constable Don Frazier. So he will be doing my duties as well as his own duties for that period of time that I'm away. Having said that, I do thank you for the town for sending out an invitation for after the parade day to meet Mayor's dinner, I understand. And if it's okay by you, I would allow or ask acting detached commander, that would be Don Frazier and his wife, Sherry, if that's okay by you. One more thing I wanted to say, I think this is a great idea, is the positive ticketing program that has been brought to our attention through Lloyd Stewart. We've embraced this. We have been issuing tickets, giving good kudos to kids, the youth mostly, to kids who are doing something right, whether it's riding a bicycle with a helmet or on the right side of the road, or just behavior issues that might be nice to be taken note of, type of thing. So we have done that, and we're doing that. We've taken photo ops with media, getting the media blitz on it, just give it a positive influence from an enforcement part of it. That just because we're police, we're there for the good as well as the evil type of thing, if we're going to use a lack of a better term I can think of right now. One more thing, if I can say this, is that our COPs are really starting to get excited about assisting us. We've had several meetings since the spring. Richard Vangery is now the new president. There's a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of knowledge from previous years. So we're getting a lot more online with the COPs and the members, seeing them come to our office and having meetings at our office and discussing the issues. So that I'm glad to see that. I've been other detaching areas where the COPs are very active, out every weekend, being the eyes and ears, and that's my vision for Cardston. That's it. That's my report, stats report. I'll take questions if there's anybody have any questions.
Council, any questions, comments? If I could, Corporal I hear more from time to time about the prescription drugs being resold and so forth. And I'm guessing you're well aware, you're watching those, and of course foot patrols can be effective in that regard. Any comments about that? Are you seeing some more problems there?
I think, well, it's a continuation from our proactivity from last year. As we accept surveillance, we know who the targets are, we're mindful of it. We had consultation with the practitioners as well as pharmacists here in town. So we do have a plan of sort, if I can say that, as to, so that the practitioners can understand that not be given volumes of medication, minimize that. One of the problems is that the individuals, we get a big influx of individuals saying that their stuff has been stolen, which now is causing us, they come to our office, report it's stolen, so that they go back to the doctor and fulfill the subscription. It's one of those things that we can monitor, do what we can at the moment, but it's a long-term process, and hopefully in the long term of us interacting with these individuals who we know is responsible will provide some kind of discouragement and minimize what has been happening. But it does happen when opportunity prevails to capitalize on income, and that's basically it, just to get more money for whatever means that we want to use it for.
And I appreciate you addressing the graffiti, because I have noticed an increase in graffiti a little bit, so I'm glad that you're cognizant and aware of that. Any comments or questions? Thank you, Corporal. Again, we appreciate the good work, and again, please convey our appreciation to your team of officers in the detachment, if you do that, please.
Thank you, Worship. One more thing about the parade, that I'm pretty sure that most of the members will be in red serge, especially the girls. We've got 4 girls on our team now, and it'd be nice to see them up front, everything.
That would be nice for sure.
If I was here for the parade, I would be getting a horse from Jeff, because he promised me a horse.
And
That would be perfect.
And those officers that will be in red, tell them how much we appreciate that.
Okay.
And certainly if that were not the case, then they would be sorely missed.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Okay, the chair will honor a motion for adoption of the minutes for the 25th June regular council meeting. So moved by Councillor Kronen. Any comments, questions,
I have
discussions?
3 questions, Mayor.
Okay,
Let me get my specs on. Under item 1364, the administration was to approach the Tanner family and discuss all the alternative solutions to resolve the issue. Has anything been done there?
but now what we're talking about, Councillor, is the accuracy of the minutes. That's really what this
Okay.
period is limited to,
All
is
right.
accuracy of the
On
minutes.
motion list, when you come down to motion list.
Okay,
All businesses.
so I'll take a motion for, no, you made the motion, right? Councillor Cronin moved approval of the minutes, all in favor? That's carried, minutes are approved. Business arising from the minutes, we'll move right into the bylaw 1620. And we had that on the agenda at the last meeting, and so we've had a couple of weeks to look at it. So we are positioned, if council is so inclined, for first reading, but, and so the chair will accept a motion for first reading of the bylaw regarding the garbage and recycling.
I'll move
First reading is moved by Councillor Smith. Any comments or questions on first reading? Councillor Kronen.
I just have a few questions regarding different items. Maybe if you can help me with them. Under 7, under burning, I looked at it and it appears that it is a commercial tenant or owner that can burn their waste, but do they need a permit at that point?
Yes, that's under our burning bylaw.
So that is automatic, right? The no.
Any exposed burning or burning in
Would require a
backyards,
permit.
all require permits, yes.
Okay, all right.
Councillor Creed.
Yeah, the main change that I think we talked about from the previous bylaw to this bylaw was the limiting the number of bags that could be, collected. And so, and Marian had asked us to, give some thought on that. And I had, a couple of discussions with different people on that. I recall when I was going to university, I actually worked for a disposal company, and in that city, it was done privately, and the people were charged for how much they put out. Like if you had 1 can, you're charged for 1 can. If you had 2 cans, you're charged for 2 cans. Anyway, as we're looking at trying to reduce the amount of garbage, that was a thought that I had, and I don't know how difficult that would be to do, for the contractor to monitor and keep records on how much garbage is put out. But that was a suggestion that I had. I know it's not in this bylaw, but I mean, this is one way to do it, is limit the bylaws. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that forward as a suggestion, that we charge by the volume, and see if that would be something that could be done.
I think it would be difficult for your man that's collecting your garbage to keep track of how many buckets he gets from each house and try and collect that. I think it would be a difficult assignment.
Okay, comment over here.
I think that system could work if we had an automated system where people are issued 1, 2, 3, or 4 bins.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's possible. I
Then I think with that type of system, it's possible.
It did work. It did work with a private company. I mean, they did it. They just had a sheet, and they just would quickly make a tick on the sheets. So I mean, I know it's possible if they did it in that city with a private company, it could be done. I just don't know how the contractor would feel about it. We'd have to discuss it with him.
Marian?
Mayor Schow, if I might, under 3A5 is where it talks about the limit of 4 refuse receptacles. But it also says that unless they pay a $2 over limit tag.
Right.
So they would need to come to the town office, get an over limit tag, put it on the bag, and then we could take 5 or 6 or however many they paid for.
So we actually have
above the 4.
made
There
provisions for that, so that they
correct.
could pay for
Correct.
more. Okay.
Yeah. So if there was a circumstance where there was a need for more, then they could come get an over limit tag.
I mean, it kind of puts the onus on the owner to know if he's going to have the extra bag, then he's got to, I guess they could get some in advance and have a few on hand. So that, because, typically they may not know, like say if you mentioned if you had company or something like that, all of a sudden you got an extra bag. And
The only way that system works for the 5th or the 6th is if the 5th and or the 6th bag are not bearing a tag, they don't get picked up.
Yeah.
That's Councillor Kronen.
What I would like to know, since we are now the 9th of July, since the 1st of July, we can no longer have grass clippings on a curb side.
Well, we never could, but we're just enforcing it as of July 1st.
No, I understand that, but what I'm trying to inquire is, did you get some feedback from
Actually,
Darcy?
we didn't have much feedback at all, and Darcy said that he hasn't had much problem with it. So I just met with him yesterday, actually, and he said that he thought that the community must have gotten the message through the media sources that we'd used. So
Okay,
he said he's not seeing much of a problem with it.
Yeah,
The
thank you.
telltale evidence will be if you look at the transfer site, and if that
The pack.
gardening heap is big, then that's the answer, Councillor.
2 things. I noticed, I don't know whether it's the way how the document was scanned, but some letters are cut off on
Yeah.
the right-hand side.
Yeah, I think that's what happened.
Okay. And then the other thing is in section 3B, the last sentence there, no person shall dispose of cardboard in a regular refuse container provided by the town.
Yeah.
In commercial areas.
But maybe we should put in commercial areas
But it
because,
starts in, 3B starts with in commercial
Yeah.
area.
Oh, it said at the beginning of the paragraph.
but like if you don't catch the beginning and you look at the last sentence,
Yeah, but
and there's no, in the definitions, there's nothing related to person. Maybe if there was something in person. Just a small point, I just,
One other comment I have here is that under 3A2, we need to take out the word domestic because magpies, crows, and seagulls are not by any stretch domestic animals, and they do more, but they make more mess, I think, than do dogs and cats. Most people, I believe, are fairly responsible and keep their pets in the yard, so I think the word domestic animals can come out of there. It doesn't really serve any purpose. Besides, they're going to feel picked on if we leave those two words in there, in those two places. There is a house directly west of the seminary building, and that garbage is put out overnight every week, and that
yes, I
is
saw
ripped
that this
into
morning.
every week. And I don't know if Lloyd has noticed it and has gone and spoken to those people, but it's been torn into and stuff scattered every week. I mean, I think the person that is in that home is elderly, but regardless of that fact, if I was our contractor, I would really appreciate that. So,
Is the $2 fee adequate?
I believe so, I think.
Does it cover cost?
It's it's an encouragement to try to reduce our waste, right? But the problem is if you set that fee too high, then you're gonna find
All over the
people are
place.
taking it to other locations,
Yeah.
which,
Which would be the commercial
I think
bins.
you had that conversation last meeting about taking it to your neighbor that only had one.
okay, the chair will call a question on first reading. All in favor? The chair will honor a motion for second reading.
Also, no.
But I'm not going to go for three.
Okay.
I'm not going to go for three. So, all in favor of second reading?
Yeah.
And I apologize, were there any comments on second reading? Okay, so no, the chair won't ask for permission to go three.
Mr. Mayor, so what we'll do is start a bit of a media blitz on this, just to talk about some of the changes to the bylaw prior to bringing it back to the August 20th meeting.
And just a comment, one of the things that I think we've been reasonably successful in doing is, I think there's a potential that when first reading of a bylaw or something of this legal nature, a city ordinance is proposed, lots of folks have the mistaken impression that it's something that's sort of set in stone and can't be changed. And I think we've done a very good job in the process that we have followed quite religiously, quite faithfully. We can do one reading, and we take all kinds of input prior to or at the first reading. We can take the second reading and still take input. And it doesn't become law until the third reading. And I think whether by gosh or by golly or just maybe good luck, but I think because of our diligence, I think our public understands that first reading doesn't mean anything is set in stone. It's the beginning of the process and still allows, under a couple more readings, staged a couple of weeks apart, in some cases, following a public hearing, that process is still open and subject to changes as needed before third reading is called on those issues. Councillor Creed, you had a comment?
Well, I'm just kind of relating to what I was talking about before, and you know those tags when you do your media blitz. I think that would be a good thing to let people know that if they think they might have extra garbage, they could maybe stock, have 2 or 3 extra tags available, so that if they have to have an extra bag, they've got one on hand to, maybe put them advertise them on the desk in the office there, that for extra if they.
Should we do a bulk rate?
Maybe, yeah, maybe so.
and buy a 10-pack.
Well, my favorite math is if you buy one, it's $2. If you buy 10, it's $20. I like that math. Unless I'm the one that's having to buy them. Okay, Department of Municipal Affairs is asking that all ORSC member municipalities pass by motion the resolution in our package, and so the chair will honor a motion to pass that resolution. Councillor Smith so moves. Any discussion on the motion to approve the requested resolution? Anything further you want to add to that, Marian? Councillor Kronen?
I think if I understand properly, it's just to make things right. It just was something that needed to be done and never was done, so it just
Very possibly. Okay.
get it approved.
If there's no other comments or questions, I will call that question. All in favor? Carried. That will make ORSC happy, I'm sure. Now, there is an issue for the civic election falls on the 21st of October, and the council meeting, which would be our organizational meeting, falls the very next day. Now, that creates a couple or three potential problems. If a recount is requested or necessitated, that organizational meeting isn't going to happen. That also creates a very, very severe burden because the votes don't get counted until 11:30 p.m. or midnight, and a new mayor then is charged with making all those committee assignments and so forth. So Marian is suggesting, because the Act says that the organizational meeting must happen within 14 days of the election day.
The third Monday in
Of-
October,
Same thing, pretty much.
which happens to be election day.
But the wording of the legislation is that the organization meeting must happen within 14 days of the third Monday in October. So administration is proposing that the
29?
22nd of October council meeting be moved 7 days later. Councillor Kronen so moves. It just so happens that the outgoing mayor will not be there. It just so happens that the outgoing deputy mayor will not be there. So be it. That's just the way it is. So the motion by Councillor Kronen is that the regular meeting of Cardston Town Council, scheduled for the 22nd of October, be held 1 week later, allowing for some time in case there is a request for a recount, allowing an incoming mayor to make the committee assignments, etc., etc. Any comments or questions on that motion? My guess is that if we were to go alphabetically, we may have to swear in a deputy mayor for a week or two, because the deputy mayor will be gone and the mayor will be gone. I would gladly change my plans if it wouldn't cost me about $500 to do so.
It's only money.
Shouldn't be a problem.
Shouldn't be a problem. Any questions or concerns about that motion to reschedule the meeting till the 29th of October? I'll call that question. All in favor? Carries. So in other words, be prepared for a swan song, but in this case a duet on that first council meeting in October, because Councillor Smith and I will probably prepare a swan song, maybe ask Councillor Dahl to join us, and we'll have a swan song in a trio format.
We could do that.
Or not. If we want to empty the chamber, that'd be a good way to do it. Okay. 7C is the issue of the tree blocking the new digital sign in front of Remax Schaefer Realty. I don't know if some of you have spoken with the people concerned.
I've talked with Mr. Schaefer, and the first thing I told him was an experience that happened many years ago. If you go to Welling and look on the west side of the road after the first house, the second house is quite close to the road. And Mr. Bullock, I think it was complaining about his house being too close to the road. And my father said to him, the road was there before you built your house. And I think we got something similar here.
The tree was there before they put up the sign?
That tree was there before they put up the sign, but I think we had to be maybe a little accommodating to Mr. Schaefer in this particular regard.
Councillor Creed.
Seeing this on the agenda, I drove by from both directions. I didn't have any trouble seeing Mr. Schaefer's sign. I don't think the tree blocks. If anything, it was the trees on the jut outs that blocked it until I got past them. We really can't be taking all the trees out. If we start doing that for the businessmen, we're going to lose our Main Street beautification. It's going to be gone. We'll have a tree here and a tree here, and
And it'll look like a,
Yeah.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, I read the backgrounder on it there too, but I mean, you know, Jim says that he's willing to pay for the pavement replacement and to even remove the tree to a different location or something, so. You know, I agree. I mean, I think there needs to be maybe a policy on that, because like, if every business owner said that the tree was blocking their business, I mean, we would have no trees on Main Street, but if the business owner is willing to pay for the cost of removal of the tree and replacement of or into a different location and to repair the concrete where the tree was, and I don't have a problem with it.
Marian.
Your Worship, I just talked with John Schaefer this afternoon and asked if they had talked with the adjacent property owners, because Jim and I looked at the property and thought perhaps the tree could be moved slightly south on the property line between the flower shop and pharmacy. What John got back to me with after he spoke to them today was that both of them were not really in favor of moving the tree south, and if anything, they prefer to see it gone. They didn't necessarily support moving it south either, so.
Councillor Edmonds.
Well, with the smallness of that hole, if you try to remove it, you're going to kill it. Because you're going to have to cut all the roots.
Well, they said they'd pay for a new tree though,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
He'd pay for a new tree somewhere else. And just as a matter of interest, and I don't know that this is inappropriate, I think, in all honesty, because it comes to the question of what about the tree that was broken as a result of a vehicle mishap about a month ago? That, I think, is going to insurance, and so that will probably be resolved through that, because they do need a tree down there. Councillor Kronen.
I did the same thing as you did. I drove from both sides. I found that coming from the north side, the sign is very visible. Coming from the south side, the tree blocks the beginning of the sign, but as you move forward, you see the sign. So if you look straight at it, the left side of the sign is covered somewhat by the tree. I was asking if we could trim the tree, but I realized now looking at it that is not possible.
I'll say at some point the tree's going to fill out too and
Yeah.
completely cover it.
My concern is with John, I appreciate his desire to have more visibility, but with replacing that tree with a smaller tree, in 10 years' time we have the same problem.
But the
So-
proposal isn't to replace it with a smaller tree. I don't think the proposal is to remove it altogether.
Well, I asked Marian if there was any consideration to replace a tree. I come from BC, you remove a tree, you have to replace a tree on that location or somewhere else, but you have to replace the tree.
Yeah.
And so I
Which, by the way,
just,
that is town policy, right?
yeah,
Well, that was the proposal. He said that he would pay to replace the tree, so it would be a smaller tree,
Sorry,
but
Cal-
in a different location, right?
Councillor Kronen,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
and so that's what I'm wondering, if he's willing to replace a tree. I have a little bit of the same kind of concern. If we start to remove one tree, then we might have another request to remove another tree and another tree. I understand the concern, but I'm also thinking, okay, are we looking at the beautification, or are merchants on Main Street are not desirous to see beautification on that street? And that is another conversation. Because from what I just heard, two other merchants next to that business are not interested in that tree either. So it begs a question, is there support for beautification or is it not?
And if I could, Councillor, there is a tree to the south of the flower shop and pretty much square in front of the pharmacy. So the pharmacy doesn't need another tree, doesn't want another tree very close. And the type of glass in the windows of the flower shop, and I don't know the name of the kind of glass, but it
The reflection.
blocks a little bit of the sunlight's direct and full
UV, yeah.
impact. So she doesn't care, doesn't want a tree. Now, one other comment that's valid, I think, is how many months of the year is the tree in full foliage, and how many months of the year is the tree barren of leaves? Probably the first answer to the question is maybe 4 months if we're lucky, meaning the last one is 8 months when the tree's barren of leaves. So maybe suck it up applies, I don't know, Councillor Smith?
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, as a business owner, I mean, you always want your sign to be visible.
Yeah,
It's
big
not,
for that.
it wasn't really their idea to put those trees up in front of their buildings in the first place. I mean, that's a town initiative, I think, eh? So, I mean, you know, but I realize that, you know, beautification is, you know, part of Cardston, but we're also are inhibiting the, you know, the view of the businesses on Main Street, on some of them, that have their signs completely blocked from the highway from those people driving by, which in turn would probably, you know, maybe hurt your business a little bit. I know if my signs were covered up or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, it may hurt that business as well. So, I mean, you know, I understand, you know, beautification's, you know, one thing, and it wasn't them it wasn't the business owners, I
Yeah.
believe, that came up with the idea to put tall trees that may cover, you know, over time their signage and things like that. So, I mean, I truly see there's a legitimate concern with the businesses on Main Street as well, and, you know, but I mean, you hate to see trees getting plunked, you know, from Main Street. I mean, unless there was some other way to beautify down there
I mean,
without inhibiting the view of the...
Councillor Dahl?
Mr. Schaefer thinks that his sign is more beautiful on Main Street than the tree.
Now, council, if there is no motion, there is no action. So the chair will honor a motion if there is a motion forthcoming. Failing a motion, there is no action.
I'll make a motion that we remove the tree in front of their place there, so.
Councillor Smith moves that we remove the tree, and according to, obviously, the cooperation and support and the financial input of Mr. Schaefer, that's part of that. Any discussion on the motion by Councillor Smith?
I would take out the tree and not move it, as Councillor Smith has suggested.
No, but the motion is removing the tree at his cost, and then he's got to put a tree somewhere else.
and replacing it somewhere
And
else.
he's got to pay for those costs. That's
Right.
that's
Yeah.
the intent there, right, Councillor?
Yeah, because the tree has to be replaced as per policy.
Where are you going to put it?
Well, that's
That's to be determined.
to be
somewhere else.
You
determined.
put it by backyard.
So long it's replaced with something, right?
I'll just make one more comment. I think we either have trees on Main Street or we don't. I can't see a piecemeal sort of thing. That's my...
Okay,
On that.
I'm gonna call the question, and all in favor of the motion to remove the tree? Opposed? We have stalemate. Motion fails. Motion fails. The only thing worse than a stalemate is a 4-3.
We better Skype court. Yes, to say.
We'll blame it on
That's
Tim.
right.
Okay, now, 7D, policy 1/10-1, is an update to further clarify the policies on freedom of information and protection of privacy. It's a twofold act, okay? There is some updates in that motion. Marian, and in a lot of ways, it's entirely for the assistance and for the help of staff. who have to deal with these kinds of things, be conscious of them on a daily basis. They may not have to deal with them on a daily basis, but they have to be conscious of the appropriate legislation. Comment, Marian?
Yes, actually, just late this afternoon, it was brought to my attention by the office staff that there's something that's missed too. In Schedule B, the fee schedule for access, we need to add point E, tax information is $10, so that's, if someone were to just, lawyers will call and just want the information, but not necessarily a written, so that would just be verbal. And then if they request a verbal information, the tax certificate is only an additional 15, so it's a total of 25.
Is the $25 adequate?
Yes, it doesn't take that long.
Is it pretty standard?
Yeah, it's a pretty standard process for this, and that's,
With the addition of item E on that fee schedule, the chair will honor a motion to accept the changes to the Freedom of Information policy for the town. Moved by Councillor Dahl. Any questions, concerns, Councillor Creed?
Yeah, I just wonder if you could just explain that one more time on that item E that you added.
okay, so E would be tax information verbal.
Right, and is
It's
there
a
a
cost
cost?
of $10.
10, okay.
And if they request a verbal tax information and then further request a tax certificate,
Okay.
it's an additional 15. So we don't charge them more than the $25 total.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that, would that be clear? I'm just wondering.
We'll define it clearly that if it's an additional
Mhm.
further request for tax certificate, it's an additional $15.
Okay.
Questions further or comments? I will call the question on the motion. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. The last item under 7, request for decisions, is tip interest, and that is proposed to be kept at 1.25%. I was going to ask Marian, that's APR, right? Annual percentage rate? Okay. Can I have a motion for approval of the tip interest to be kept at 1.25%? Councillor Creed so moves. Questions, council? I will call it. All in favor? That motion carries. No financial report. We are now looking at our town council motion list. It is there for your information. And now would be a good time if there are any questions regarding the town council motion list. Seeing none, we'll move to 9B.
Councillor Dahl, did you want to ask that question?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
I believe
You wanna
that
ask that
Councillor Dahl had a
question
question about the
at the beginning?
Tanner
About
family,
the
and that
Tanner, yeah.
report
This
is
would be a
there.
good time to ask that question.
That they will be meeting with us within the next week or two. They intend to come to town. We've been in contact with them.
Okay.
Okay.
It's regarding the resolution.
I had 3 that I wanted to ask.
Okay, maybe there's some more there.
The first one is dealing with the Tanner family property.
Yes, that's the one we're talking about.
Yes,
Yeah.
we've been in contact with them, Councillor, and they are going to be in town in the next couple of weeks, and we'll meet with them then.
Okay. The next one is 1366, and that's the adoption of recycling council. Have the administration be there,
I'm sorry.
and you're going to bring us back cost on automatic bins.
Yeah, the bins I'm working on updating with our new contract at the transfer station. I'm updating those costs, and I expect to have that on the agenda for August 20th.
Thank you.
Okay, so now Agricultural Society report, please. This is a busy time for them as they're preparing for their big event, which is just a month from right now.
Yeah, that's basically what was being discussed at the committee meeting is basically preparing for all the events coming up
Okay.
and making sure everything's up and ready to go. Sounds like it's going to be a really good week for them, so.
Airport.
Okay, well, the fly-in was successful, and they haven't had a meeting since then, but...
I was sick that morning, actually.
Oh, that's too bad.
I
It
was
was,
sick that
it
morning.
was a nice...
14 airplanes, I understand?
There was more than that, actually.
Was there?
Yeah, I don't know the exact count.
And someone said that Chef Kronen was involved in the breakfast.
And Councillor
Yeah.
Creed was a flipper.
Yeah, we were both there. She was dishing up, I was flipping pancakes.
No, I was talking to the other chef, about the other Chef Kronen. Someone said the other Chef Kronen was there. No?
Councillor Dahl was there and enjoyed the fruit of our
Yeah.
labor.
The two councillors, one across the table from me and the one sitting next to me, did an excellent job.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Now, when will the airport have their next meeting?
If they do the normal schedule, it will be this coming Thursday, but I won't be here, so I'll have to talk to them and see if because they usually do it the second Thursday of the month.
Do they typically meet monthly on a pretty regular
They
schedule?
typically meet the second Thursday of the month. I'll have to talk to them and see if there's anything, because I'll be away this Thursday.
Yeah. South Grove.
I have quite a bit to report, so be patient. There is some changes in the organization. Shilpa Stoker is no longer a South Grove manager as of June 30th, 2030. Shilpa will remain as project managers until January 2014. Mary Swanek, who was secretary and dealing with accounting, will see her contract ending September the 30th, 2013, but will remain as project assistant coordinator to oversee all accounting regarding all the projects until the end of December 2013. So I have been re-elected as member of the board of directors representing the towns for South Grove, but I have not let my name stand as member of the executive. I felt that the project that we're dealing with needed some people who had a little bit more depth in knowledge about the marketing and about the following projects I'm going to talk about. Right now, I'm still part of subcommittees for the project and very involved and terribly busy. We have contracted the services of MNP, a firm out of Calgary, to oversee investment attraction and lead generation for the South Central Alberta. That's a very important project to us all. And this Friday we will be screening out applications for marketing the region campaign with the goal to have the government of Alberta more knowledgeable of the facts and also potential investors more knowledgeable of the fact that South Grove region is open for business because of water availability in the region, which was the myth that had been carried on for too many years. There was no water in the south, therefore don't move your companies in the south. And we have done enough studies to prove that wrong. The third project we're still working on is the Water for Economic Development, and Tabor, the town of Tabor is a lead partner for that project. And a fourth project, which impacts us a little bit more closely, is the one with alternative energy in partnership with the Lethbridge College. And there will be a session that I will present on July 18 at the Remington Center regarding alternative energy co-op models. So that is something we should come and support and try to bring our friends to. All those projects have a December 2013 deadline. As to the future of the project of South Grove and its internal organization structure, I can't report at this time. It may become clearer at the next board meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Communities in Bloom?
Oh, could I ask Councillor Kronen a question on that?
Sure.
July 18th, alternative energy at the Remington Center.
It's at the Remington Center, and I can even
Was
give
there
you
time?
the time. Yes, I have the time. I believe it's 6 o'clock, if I remember
Are there
right.
going to be displays, or is it kind of an open house format?
It's the Lethbridge College person that worked on that
Greg
project,
Peterson?
or an associate of his that will present. They are doing presentation in 3 or 4 different centers
Okay.
in the South Grove region, just to help people understand that you can bring alternate energy to a reality through the form of co-op that don't have the same restrictions as wind farms.
A very valuable piece of information, and that probably would serve us well, especially those who are seeking re-election to council, but not just, to get up to speed on those alternative energy options through the co-op format. Thank you, Councillor. Chief, Community Involvement.
All right, ready for that. We're having our beautification week. Actually, we're not doing a big deal this week. We're basically having an appreciation luncheon on July 24th for those that helped with the volunteers that helped with the planters on Main Street, and also
It's going to be a day of recognition.
Yeah, just a
community
recognition
day
day.
rather than week
right. And
this year.
yeah. Other than that, as far as projects, we are looking at. I think we mentioned this once before, but we're looking more seriously at on the south entrance to town, where you have those brick pillars and the welcome sign, putting a couple of flags there, Canadian and American flag, on those 2 brick pillars as you're driving into town on Highway 2 from the south.
It's near the Cardston County
Yeah.
building.
Lloyd Stewart and I drove up and took a close look at it and kind of got some measurements and figured what would probably look good up
And while I
there.
appreciate that, let's not forget that we actually are participating, or did participate. Do we have any annual commitment on that flag, or just our commitment that we pay to get it up at the county?
If we had to replace ours, we do a lot. We pay for that.
So I guess as much as I appreciate where that's going, let's not forget that there's already some very nice big
Right,
visible
yes.
signs at the county.
We thought about that, but they thought that would be nice to put just, not a huge one, but just two flags, a Canadian and American flag. So we'd like to pursue that as a project and get some costing on that.
So now, what would be the budget implications?
We don't know yet. We're pursuing that. So
Okay.
we'll bring that back.
And Chief Mountain Solid Waste.
There again, I have a little bit to report. The budget was finally approved without the high hope, but the towns lost some revenue in consequence. The metal waste will still be collected from towns, but the revenues will stay with the authority rather than be redistributed. They wanted to cut all the revenues from the recycling. I opposed that vehemently because of our commitment to the Handicapped Society. And I also opposed the fact that I wanted to slash the annual audit. I felt that was too important to not have accountability to the towns that give us money. So, yeah, there are some odd ideas that have been shared over there. Another thing that I'm very concerned about is that there is a board member that is still pushing forward the purchase of the high hole for Lee Beazer in November, rather than wait for best practice to be done. So we have to be vigilant on this one. I'm also concerned that our depreciation account is used to pay for operational items, and that is being depleted to not only replace faltering equipment, but possibly to buy new ones that may be not necessary, or to pay for operations. So I'm concerned with that, but I'm wondering how much others understand that. We have been cited by the Alberta Environment because of our flying bags all over the countryside. And we have now asked the fellow that works with the authority to give us a cost regarding an 18-foot fence, and to give us also the bull fences that are the first line of catching.
Defenses.
Defense, yeah. I will think, having had the tour of Lethbridge, and I would think that's probably going to run us in at $200,000, which might increase our requisition if we cannot decrease our other expenses on the next budget. So it has me a little bit concerned. So we have received, as of now, the permission to dump the green and organic waste into the animal waste recycling at the landfill. So that is good, because it will allow the town to divert all that green from the landfill and reduce the amount of tons of waste we bring in there. What we need to see done is to see how many other towns can follow suit. That's as much as I can report right now.
Can I ask you, and I may have missed it, can I ask you the status of the best practices study?
Well, the best practice, Marian has sent it to all the different towns involved, and she's waiting for the approval.
Correct. I've submitted the application, and I have requested resolutions of support from all of the participating municipalities, but we do not have confirmation of the funding back yet.
Now, let me just make a comment on that. It would seem to me that $100,000 or $200,000 spent on fences, and I know that the problem is there, it would seem to me that we'd be far ahead to complete the best practices study, because the best practices study may come back and say, listen, spend the money in some fashion on compaction. And in my mind, compaction, either at each transfer station or in each garbage truck, or maybe a big, that's what would be the result of the best practices. And maybe compaction reduces the bags flying around.
But isn't it based on tonnage anyhow?
Yeah, it's based on tonnage no matter what. It might alleviate some of the problem, except that in Lethbridge I do compaction also. They do have a certain amount of compaction, in fact they bag, but then when they have to dump they have to unbag, which is rather odd. But they have 4 lines of defense, and one that is a 40-foot fence, and one that is a 20-foot fence.
Oh, boy.
And then they have those bull fences, and they are now talking about putting another fence about 100 feet further down in another field.
So what can you...
The Alberta environment is where the sticking point is.
And I realize that.
And so how long will they allow us to not have a solution?
So my next question is then, some of the stuff that you're reporting is absolutely astounding. I just can't believe that someone on that organization is pushing that they're not being audited. I can't believe that.
It was $10,000 cost-saving measure.
Could I
That's all.
ask a question on that? Because when I was on the library board, it came to our attention that they weren't required to have an audit, and they eliminated that audit. And I'm just wondering, are they not required to have an audit then?
They're not specially required to have an audit. The problem is, it's not exactly the same story as a library. The library is, we're not talking exactly apple to apple here. Here we're talking 14 communities that are dealing with that. They should know what happened to their money.
I think we need to know what happened to the money.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I think
Anyway, there was a motion passed that we would have an audit, and so we had to compromise somewhere. So the metal waste revenue represents $7,500, and so
Cardston loses the most on that because we have the most metal.
Yes, we do lose on it, but you know something, it was or one or the other, so I had to go with something that would protect our handicapped society.
Yeah.
And I could have said, cut that, and honestly, to me, it was wrong, because we employ those people, and it's very important to me to see them employed.
Thank you very much. Chinook Foundation, Councillor Dahl.
We are still struggling at Diamond Willow. They're converting some of the units into double rooms. And it's old, takes a lot of work and some money to repair. And they're proceeding with getting plans or whatever for the expansion on the new land that they bought on the southeast corner from the Diamond Willow.
Okay.
And so it's moving along, but it's moving slowly.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Dahl. Councillor Edmonds, CM.
We have a new chairman now, and I'm hoping that will speed up the meetings. Lloyd Curl is now the new chairman.
Okay.
And they were asking about why we hadn't signed the contract, and when I talked to Marian and Cap, it turns out that every time they send us a contract, it's not what we agreed to. So this renovation for storefronts is not going anywhere right now unless you...
It
is on now as of
Okay.
last week.
Yeah,
so-
it's been completed, I think.
So-
Okay. So, and we're not having any meetings for July and August.
Thank you, Councillor. Economic Development and Tourism.
There was lots that was said there, so if you don't mind, bear with me. There was a senior survey regarding housing. It did not result in sufficient returns to be statistically meaningful. So we had the executive board decided to address, to extend it to a younger population, bracket down, in order to understand their housing desire in 10, 20 years down the road. So there are new surveys that we will distribute to some people that we feel might become more meaningful to us to have responded to that survey. There is a renewable energy co-op information evening. That's the one I mentioned earlier, July 18 at the Remington Center. Bring your friends. The Chamber of Commerce has had their AGM. There's 5 new members that joined the Chamber. One of which is Tony Walker from Community Future. The other one are Jason Henninger from Shoreshine, Mike Meek from Rafting, don't exactly know the last name of his business. Bill Pivoy, which is the manager of the
He's
South.
the front desk manager of South Country.
Of South Country. And Ben Cahoon from former Horizon Trailers, I guess. And they have not yet had their first organizational meeting, so Zenas is still the president at this time. Kim Fleckinger came and made a presentation on behalf of the Handicap Society and was seeking for support of the town. We gave her support. A letter was written in support of their efforts. And I saw her this morning when I was walking to town, and no, the meeting with the government went very well. They accepted their plan, and so no handicap that is in that society will see their job cut, so the barn will stay open, and the recycling also. And the only concession they had to make was to show that the handicapped were going to be more independent, and the government accepted the fact that now those young people now have to look after their own lunches and snacks. And the society decided not to renew one contract to fit within the reduction of the budget. That evening we also had Nora Manner from the Waterton Biosphere Reserves that made a presentation to our board regarding sustainable tourism. It was extremely interesting, a little lengthy but interesting.
Yeah.
The town has applied for a $50,000 PV Mart grant to purchase a composter turner. The town and county, or is it, I think it's both.
The county.
The
Yeah.
We
county?
just sent a letter of support.
Oh, we sent a letter of support, okay, sorry about that. And then we had one more item, really, that I want to report on. Mayor Schow expressed his desire to be a champion for moving the Agrodome next to the Equine Academy, and was seeking financial support of the town for a feasibility study for a college in Cardston in the amount of $100,000.
Yeah, Marian and I talked about that, and Marian's going to keep her eyes open for some source that might be able to fund that feasibility study through a grant. That pretty well says it, Marian.
I think that's about it for that.
Thank you very much. FCSS?
We won't be having any meetings during July and August, and things are progressing. They're talking about changing the time of the meeting from 5 till 7, so the people from Benwood and surrounding areas can get to the meetings. And things going good.
Fire Department?
Mayor Schow,
Oh,
if I
yes.
could, just one thing on the FCSS, Councillor. For the women's conference this year, we are going to bring in Amanda Lindhout, and she is a reporter from Red Deer who was actually captured and held hostage for a year, 18 months, I believe, in Somalia.
Yeah.
And the FCSS board, it's a little more than what we normally would use as to spend on a speaker, but I've been trying to get her here for a couple of years. I've heard her before. Fantastic story. So just if you're talking to people for the women's conference, it's a can't miss type speaker. So
She spoke on TV the other day.
yeah, and she
It
has a
was
book coming out
amazing.
in the fall. We got in just under the wire. Her speaking fees will go up drastically come fall. So that's good news for the FCSS.
Can she be located even for a few minutes on YouTube someplace?
Oh, yeah, if you search her, you'll...
What's the name again?
Amanda Lindhout, Lindhout.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's,
I said, I just remember reading about her and her experience. I don't know where I read it.
it's an amazing story.
Yeah.
From a woman perspective, I don't know how the woman survived.
Mhm.
It's amazing.
There's something,
The message she gives is a message of forgiveness and the
Yeah.
power of forgiveness.
something clicking in my mind, but it's not connecting, so I'll have to do that Google search. Councillor?
Okay, fire. Yeah, they're basically taking the summer off as far as board meetings.
Oh, I thought you were going to say.
No, the fire department still, there's no fire bans right now. I tried to contact Danny to see if there's anything he wanted me to bring up, but I couldn't get a hold of him, so I'm assuming no news is good news right now.
Okay, thank you.
Fire.
Can I just ask a question? I come to this bylaw about burning. I see all kinds of fires around Cardston all the time. Are all these people applying for permits? Or are they just having a fire? And
What kind of fires are they? Are they open fires or?
open fires where they're burning branches?
Well, they
They're allowed to be in a
may,
pit.
you could always go ask them if they've got a permit.
Yeah.
They're supposed to, if they have an open fire, they're supposed to apply for a burning
Yeah,
permit.
because I got a neighbor that they have she burns branches and stuff all the time. And
Well, if they have a pit, it's fine, but it's.
Well,
just,
there has to be a
outside of
screen,
a
if
closed
it's screened
closed screen,
in
so-
a proper
It's just an
receptacle.
open fire with-
But if they're burning fire, they're
Yeah,
supposed to get a
well-
burning
Yeah.
permit.
Well, I guess you got a couple of choices. You can call the bylaw officer,
Mhm.
or you just say, listen, you could be in trouble if you don't have a screen over your flames. Councillor Kronen?
I had something, a similar experience up on the East End, and I went to that person because the flames were coming so close to the fence. We was visiting a friend there, and asked the gentleman, is he aware that he needed a burning permit and some kind of, oh no, he says. I say, you don't even have water next to that, and the flames are coming dangerously close to the fence. I could see them shooting, sitting in the living room of that friend. And he extinguished his fire. I told him who I was, and I told him I would suggest you extinguish that fire now. And they do.
Well, kudos for that.
Forgiveness is better than permission.
Yeah.
I wouldn't advertise that when it comes to fire.
Okay, anything else, Councillor?
No.
Okay. Handy bus? Nothing on handy bus? Historical Society?
Things are going a little better over there. They have Broderick there, and they bought a new scanner, which they can put a whole bunch of pages in, and it will copy from just one after another. So they're able to copy a lot of the documentation that will be sitting in files, which will then become searchable, and they're setting up a web page. So eventually you'll be able to go in and look at all this information on the web page.
Okay.
So, but there's no meetings for July and August unless we have a calamity.
Now, as you're well aware, with the upcoming election, the county was not of a mood to get into the upgrading the intermunicipal development plan, and so that won't have any activity on it until our council is changed in October and their council is changed in October. Just for your information, and again, this is just information, a recent county meeting voted to keep the large document, and so I guess they're going to be gradually working their way through it. I don't know, but they voted to keep that document. But it did not pass first reading, but they voted to keep the document. Loud Irrigation District?
No report.
Library?
They've had some problems with things going into the book return that shouldn't be going in, like drinks and things like that. And when I was in Calgary this week, during the flood, people still came and dropped off their books into the return bin, which then dropped them into the basement, which was flooded. So they lost hundreds of books. Now, why people would even do that when they know that the building is flooded, and yet they're still returning their books? And like they said, there's a grace period. The place is shut
Close the
down.
chute.
Well, quite frankly, under those circumstances, you bet there's going to be a grace period.
But,
Would it be nice to have a sign on the top of the chute?
It would have been nice.
Yeah.
But like at the library there, I don't know how you can stop that, because if you put a screen in, then the book can't get down. And so, but it's only happened a couple of times lately, so.
Well, if it carries on, maybe you have, unfortunately, you should.
Well, they were
stop the
wondering
chute.
if the, I know at one time we talked about getting some security cameras. And they were wondering if we had some, then maybe they could put it up there for a period of time. And they've also got problems with graffiti on the back of the building as well. So,
Okay, so security cameras and graffiti. Jeff, have you had any dialogue at the administration level about some cameras on Main Street in certain strategic areas? And maybe that's not a fair question because maybe there's no new information or...
Yeah, I don't have anything to present to council.
Okay.
But they could get cameras for, under $1,000 that can be mounted there.
yeah.
With the recorder and everything.
Yeah, so they
Yeah.
maybe want to look into that if
That's-
that's becoming a problem.
That's probably good advice.
Yeah.
That's my thinking.
We did talk about that, so
Okay.
they wanted to check and see if the town had anything. So I will pass that on to them.
Okay. Nothing further from the library? Mayors and Reeves will be on sabbatical for the summer. There will be no meeting. There would have been a meeting last Friday, as that was, that would have been the first Friday of the month. The Mayors and Reeves will not meet in July and August. Municipal Subdivision and Development Authority, that's Councillor Court,
Yeah, I'm also on that.
and you're
one.
also on there, okay.
And we've only had one variance last month, and there's nothing this month. So
Parks and Recreation is Councillor Court. Has there been any movement at all, I'm guessing not, regarding the joint use?
Agreement.
There's been some discussion, but nothing substantial to
Okay.
report right now.
Could administration tell us a little bit where the pool is moving to?
Of course, yeah, I'll have Jeff just
Sure.
speak to that.
So, as you've noticed, the pool's not there anymore. And so over the last couple of weeks, we had the county and we had to hire an operator with a hydraulic hammer. Our initial thoughts that the county's backhoe and a couple of trucks would take all that out were we were a little undersized as far as equipment. We had another, Jack Malin came in with his loader and helped where he could, but again, we just didn't have, there was a tremendous amount of cement under that floor, let's just put it that way. So we brought in a loader and a breaker and had him for a week. So we actually never found the bottom of all the piles, but we left them at 15 feet deep because the new pool doesn't need to be any deeper than that. So you'll see the east wall is still there and a portion of the south wall. And the reason we left those two is that we can't expand anywhere to the east. That's fixed. And we'll probably take the cinder block out and rebuild a little bit of a nicer wall at the end, but it's going to provide a good construction barrier for now. And on the south, we didn't want to remove any of the deep footings or the grade beam because we'll start to need retaining wall as we drop off that grade any further. So one thing that did change, Acapulco Pools came out, it was a week ago last Wednesday, so 2 weeks ago tomorrow. And we went down on the site while it was under demolition, and it was determined we're going to shift everything to the north instead of trying to fight the grade drop off to the south. Because the north grade beam was on the level already with the ground. So everything's going to be shifting to the north, so you're going to see the pool decking come basically all the way out to the pine trees. There's one tree, it's a pretty raggedy one, it's probably going to have to go, but then the other ones will stay, and we're going to go almost to the 25-foot setback on the east side, or sorry, on the north side, my apologies, on the north, to accommodate the deck space we need and shift the whole basin. And as we got looking at that grade that drops off, it was just a bit of a monster we didn't want to have to deal with.
Very costly to deal with.
Yeah, we were seeing a lot of issues dealing with it, and we had lots of room to the north, so it may be a little off center to how we had originally drawn it. So where we're at today is we have the site plan submitted, the development permit for Acapulco has been issued. They plan to start having people, their construction people show up on site next week. So now we'll probably have to bring the county back to help with removing just some of the fill and the soil in the pool area. They couldn't take it all out because they needed it to get into the deep end of the pool and to ramp themselves in and out of those areas. So until Acapulco's on site, we didn't really just want to start arbitrarily digging until they were here to say where they wanted it. So we'll have to take a little bit out. We're getting soils testing on the site this week so that we know what we can get for compaction under the new basin. And we've about got our full contract worked out. I was on that for a couple hours today. Those contracts tend to get pretty hefty. And so we're just working out a couple of last minute details, but we're really close and we'll have all that signed and done before they show up. And other than that, we've got Ferrari, Westwood, and Lethbridge taking a larger role than we had originally thought, but they've been excellent in helping us with the site layout and also with the eventual. What they're doing is really watching the building and saying, if we come north or if we move this or if we change this, how might that affect the need or affect the renovation of the building later? Are we going to compromise anything we could do later? And we found a couple of things. It's been great to have them on side, and they're doing good work for us there. And other than that, so you should start seeing reconstruction this time or a little bit later next week if all goes well. But you know, when you get this kind of rain, we've got another pool in the old pool now that we got to get pumped out and dried out a little bit. There's going to be a few of those things we'll have to cope with, but it's coming along quite nicely.
Can I ask you, what does Acapulco think the completion date might be tentative?
Well, contractually, they are obligated to have substantial completion on the mechanical system and all the piping by March 15th of next year,
Okay.
and to be ready to open by the end of May. So the only concern on their part and ours is what the weather is going to be like for May of next year. So if we have the ability to make it sunny and dry, then no problem, we'll be fine. but we have to epoxy the entire basin next spring after the winter. And you have to have 4 or 5 days of 10 degree and up dry weather. So that's really the only piece we're gambling on just a little bit, but they're confident that they'll have basically all the mechanical and piping will be done this summer and fall. And the whole basin will be poured. That'll all be done before winter comes, and we're hoping, and this one's not for sure, we're hoping all the decking is poured in 2013 as well. That one's not for sure, and it's not totally critical, because we can't do that until we know 100% that all the mechanical's been pressure tested and not leaking and everything's 100% there. So I'm very comfortable with Acapulco. The more we deal with them, the more we work with them, the more confidence we're getting and the more comfort we're getting with each other. They seem very, very organized and very professional to this point, so I'm still really happy with all that.
It's good to hear, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Powwow. We're on target for a powwow as the dates 6th and 7th of August. It may, if we do not see the funding from Moses Lake, it may be a very scaled down powwow. I was in conversation with Arnold and his wife yesterday. They assured me the money was forthcoming. So we'll wait and see. But we're fast approaching the point where we have to put out posters and we have to take of any reference to prize money, or at least certainly scale down prize money if we don't see their money this week. Councillor Kronen.
Mayor Schow, maybe then, because it's a matter of budget, maybe we ought to have a motion put forward regarding what we intend to do as Plan B. Because if we don't have another council meeting before the power comes. And so we need to have something so that administration has what they need to proceed. We can't leave it this way unfinished.
Well, but Councillor.
I know that we have the potential to have that money. I understand that. But we're not sure how much. And we don't know if it will cover 1-day power or 2-day power or demonstration. That's a problem. And we don't know if anybody will come up with the difference.
Right now, I would propose Plan B to be as follows. We can have, well, and I don't know, Graham, were you able to put together some sort of a budget on $7,000?
Councillor Kronen has the budget there that
Okay,
was.
so the proposal would be very simple, that all of the prize money would be scaled way back, and we would make a powwow fit within a $7,000 budget. And I don't know, because I don't think I've got a copy of it.
We just did that up this afternoon, Mayor,
Okay.
sorry about
Mayor
that.
Schow, regardless, there is a shortfall, no matter which way we look at it.
Except the
today-
shortfall.
And that is the question. This is why I say.
We can't hold a powwow with the shortfall. We either scale it way back, and that's just me. I mean, if there's a motion that we spend a couple thousand more dollars, but I just want to look here just real quick. Drum groups have to be scaled back.
Now,
They
the
have
only,
been
the
to
only thing that
$600.
I have read regarding the protocol on powers, and it appears that the protocol on powers for demonstration tells you that you do not pay even nobody, not even the drum groups. So that's according to the book that I read on powers. So I could bring you the book and you can figure that one out, which seems to be a little bit odd, but whatever.
Okay. We're not sure if we're going to even have a meeting tomorrow, because I can be there, you can't.
I can't.
I can't.
And you're not available.
And neither can Arnold and Bianca, they've just let us know.
This is why I say, in due respect to they're letting us know that the money is forthcoming. Since February, we want to see the money. We haven't seen the color of it. And I know a little bit, it's difficult for them because they're not the one issuing the checks. I totally understand that. But I also understand that going ahead without knowing that the money is there is unwise.
I have, as my vote, there's no chance we'll move ahead without the money. It will not happen without the money, okay? But there will be a powwow. It will be with $7,000, and that's just the way it'll be.
But $7,000 still means that is $2,000 over budget. And that is a discussion we have to have. Is the town going to pay an extra $2,000 because the blood tribe is not coming up with money potentially? Or are we really totally going away from the philosophy, from the original idea of what the power was to represent, which was bridging community together and bringing together the similar amount of money to the table? It can't be just one side, budget-wise.
It's been one-sided for a long time.
No, last year we got the money and we had total money coverage. It was one-on-one. Or pretty close anyway.
Well, okay, let me put it in these terms. We have budgeted $5,000. There is presently $28.80 in the account, so there is $78.80. There are a couple of sponsors that have committed to make the difference. I know one sponsor that will make up the difference between $78.80 and $91.80. So if we can do a powwow for $91.80, then we're covered.
Out of $5,000, we put $5,000, so are you telling me that we get donations for $4,000?
Let me go over this again. I'm seeing here, town has budgeted $5,000.
Yes.
Presently in the account, $28.80, so that's $78.80. I'm seeing here at the bottom, $91.80 as the total expenses.
That is for demonstration power, correct?
That's for demonstration powwow. And that there is a sponsor that's committed to making up the difference between $78.80 and $91.80, roughly $1,300. That's on record. So my philosophy is that
Plan B will be that plan.
Plan B will be
A demonstration power with someone committing to come up with a difference.
now the problem. Okay, so
it is a
for a
problem.
one-day powwow, in the past couple of years, the one-day powwow has taken us at least an hour and a half
But that's a demonstration.
later than I was comfortable with. Unfair noise late at night to the people around. So we'll cut back some things in the middle and make sure that we're done. And we'll just make sure we're done.
But the demonstration power is totally different. You don't even have the same amount of people. The demonstration power is when the announcer explains to the crowd what each dance represents, where it originated from, and it goes on with a few dances, a dozen of them, but all. So it's totally different. Totally different. And then first of all, we have to find those volunteers dancers because they cannot be paid. It's demonstration power. That's against our own protocol. So that's another story. We're very late to try to even find that. Because that is a problem all around. In terms of logistic organization, finding those dancers.
But now hang on a
You're
minute.
still an announcer.
We need to slash a lot of money out of this one-day budget. we need to slash the drum groups from 2,500.
But it's left to 600 in that, if you look at it. And
Yeah.
If I might, this, talking specifics about the budget, I think is more appropriate for the powwow
You're
committee.
right, you're right.
Council's discussion, I think, should be more directed to what is our budget implication, and if council's not prepared to put any more than the 5,000, then I think that's the direction that the representatives on that committee would take back to the committee, right?
As committee chairman for the powwow, I'm not prepared to ask council for any more money. I'm just not prepared to ask for any more money. So that discussion rests, okay? That discussion rests. The next, thank you, Marian.
do we need any motion to move forward one way or the other?
Just be the committee, I think. The committee will just move ahead with
$5,000.
budget available.
Well, we've got a commitment for about $9,000.
I think you've got in the budget $5,000, you've got $2,800 in the account. And I think the committee just needs to determine what they're going to do with that money if it's appropriate.
Yeah.
I feel very firm that the Blood Tribe should be contributing to this program on an equal amount that the town is doing.
Mayor Schow, did Arnold and Bianca say that if there is any money coming, it might be this Wednesday or this coming Friday? Is that what they let you to understand?
He said to me, all he needs is the other signature on the check. That's all he said to me. I'm guessing his is one.
And the other one has to be from a member of the financial committee?
No, the other one just has to be a member of the Moses Lake Committee. This money is coming out of the Moses Lake budget. Anyway, so we'll move. We reach a point where we can generate the posters in-house, but we need about 3 weeks advance time to advertise the powwow, but we have to make sure there's correct information on the powwow. So we'll work through these things, and if the powwow happens, it will happen with the $9,180. I still think this entire price structure can be seriously tweaked. It just has to be seriously tweaked. Like there's still 2,500 left here for drum groups. That needs to be
2,500 represented 5 drum group. Now, I know that you mentioned that in other powwows they're only given $300 per drum group, which means we could put $1,500, we can change the dance. But anyways, those are details that we should look at the committee level.
Now, the next agenda item has to do with, we had a situation about a month ago where there was going to be a tax sale. There will be no tax sale. That situation has been taken care of. There will be no tax sale. Okay?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
I move that item 11A be part of item 12.
It's a public item. All communication
No,
has...
communication has to be public.
And communication is public. So just note that we have a piece of correspondence from a resident of the community having to do with a proposed development in the community. But I will take a motion to go in camera.
I'll say, also move.
Move to go in camera. All in favor? Carried. Okay.